Going to Wrigley Field was a huge, unforgettable deal that impacted my life.
Well, I think the Cubs winning based upon the gap was one of the biggest championships that have happened in any American sport in a really long time.
The first day that they introduced me, I said, baseball matters on the north side of Chicago. It's one of the, I love baseball and I love fan bases where it's important.
Well, I always hated the idea of the Cubs as lovable losers because I don't think there's anything lovable about putting an inferior product in front of baseball fans.
It would be the highlight of my career to see that happen and to get a chance to call it. And it didn't disappoint.
I auditioned for the new kid. His name was Billy Crystal. I don't know whatever happened to him. But I'm on the Chad and Ryan show.
Welcome to Friendly Confines, Extra Innings with Chad Gordon and Ryan Lieber.
What's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome to the Friendly Confines Extra Innings. I'm Ryan Lieber. That's Chad Gordon. We're back with you for another week talking about Cubs baseball. You know, this is just an interesting little thread here. So for those who want to, peek behind the curtain a little bit here, I live in South Florida. Chad lives in Southern California. However, this weekend, Chad and I were both in Chicago, yet we did not know. Chad knew I was in Chicago, but I did not know. Chad, you were in Chicago. It was a last-minute trip, but you were there.
Yeah, I was there for hours. Yeah, I was there for hours. I knew that I wouldn't. I didn't dress for the types of clubs that you go to. I'm not really allowed to be the type of people. I mean, you're with the heavy hitters in Chicago. I was just there with just humble friends and people that I care about. I mean, that's just it, Ryan. And honestly, it was such a short trip for me. I don't think I could have. I couldn't have seen dawn like you probably did each and every day. But I did get to see a Cubs game on Saturday, if you want to call it that. And I'm pretty excited. We're going to talk about some negative stuff, but if you include Saturday, I'm going to see 3 Cubs games this week. So I'm pretty stoked about whenever the Cubbies come to Southern California.
It's looking good on that front. So, of course, we have Aldo Gandia, our producer with the Barroom Network, who is behind the scenes making things happen for us. And with that, Chad, let us begin in the 10th inning. And we will start here, Chad. The bat's getting a little chilly right now for the Cubs after we saw how great they were in the month of May. So I'll just go ahead and let you start. What concerns do you have right now that we have seen from this ball club from a standpoint of not getting a lot of hits and not scoring a lot of runs that we've seen recently?
Well, I'll cover a couple different things. And I know we aren't the White Sox podcast. That's coming up after the show here, after our show, if you stay on the Barroom Network. The White Sox haven't done very well either. They had a rough outings against the Rays and the Astros. And the reason I bring them up is because Lance Lynn had a great quote afterwards. He goes, "It's June." Yeah, it's June. No one gives a bleep. And honestly, these things are going to happen. I mean, it's bewildering how good you can look against the Giants, the Mets, the Cardinals, the Padres, the Dodgers, even at times sweeping all of those teams that are all playoff teams. And then the Marlins come in and just look like world beaters like they did in the postseason last year when the Cubs couldn't get a win off. So I was at the game on Saturday. We'll talk a little bit about Jake in the next inning, but it was lifeless. It looked like the team, I don't know. I kept looking in the media to see, like, do they have a party, the night before? Do they do a fundraiser? They just looked lifeless. Did the heat get to them? It wasn't pretty. Although this team is doing a good job of not getting swept. The Sunday game looked okay, but the bats were pretty lifeless. And I mean, this was a one hitter, and an hits batsman. Those were the only 2 base runners. They left 1 runner on until the 8th inning. So they looked pretty weak. And I was sharing with you via text earlier. Wouldn't it be nice to have Kyle Schwarber right about now? Here's the guy that is going to have a career year, just named National League Player of the Week, followed up his 2 home run game with a 3 home run game. a lot of issues on this Cubs team that we're seeing some regulars come back and less injury issues, but those regulars sure aren't doing what they need to be doing, Ryan.
Yeah, so let me throw some numbers out at you here, Chad. Since the Cubs beat the Cardinals in that homestand 7-2, the next game they won 2-0. So we'll start with that 2-0 game. In the last 8 games, Chad, the Cubs have been outscored 35-14 in their last 8 games. Now, here's another stat for you. In those last 8 games, the most amount of runs they have scored in a single game is 3. 3 runs they have scored. Chris Bryant, who you and I have talked about, was, a candidate for most valuable player early on. I think he's still in the conversation, but he has cooled off immensely going into tonight's game, only hitting now 279. He started the month hitting way over 300. And that, to me, I think, is a big reason why this team is not playing very well, because Chris Bryant, who is kind of leading the charge, so to speak, when it came to this offense, has significantly, I guess, cooled off. He's not hitting well. He's not playing well. I don't know if that, that injury that he's, suffered in the Mets series is starting to play a role, maybe a little more of the hand injury, but it's concerning to see, because we've seen this movie before, Chad. We've seen the bats go cold, and I'm just concerned that, this is starting to become a theme now in the month of June. Now, here's the positive. I will end this with a positive. You and I have talked about many times that this is a very difficult stretch. And if the Cubs can finish 13-13 in the month of June, that's a win right there. Right now, going into tonight's game, they're 10-9. So they're on pace to have a winning record for the month of June. That's all I'm looking for. They got to win 3 more games, and I'll be happy with a 13-13 record. Anything more than that, to me, that's gravy.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about before this month started. This is one of the toughest months of the year, but again, it is just June. It doesn't really matter how – most teams can't play themselves out in June unless you're the Arizona Diamondbacks this year. It's really hard to be completely out of it with the parity this league has. But the Cubs right now are right on pace to be where they want to be. And I think, how they look in this 2-game series against Cleveland, how they look against the Dodgers in the 4-game set is going to let the optimistic or the pessimistic fans to jump on board on what they know to be true. So we're going to see that here in the next coming days. And if you are simulcasting us tonight, I love that. The game's going to start here in just a bit against at Wrigley. Much cooler conditions than the one that I saw on Saturday. It was blistering, but we got the Indians for 2 games starting tonight, and we'll be checking in on the score there. But we hope we're simul. We hope you're either you got Pat Hughes in your ear and you've got us watching us, or you've got the game on and doing that as well. So let's move on to the 11th inning. And in the most recent podcast, and for those viewers, as you know, we also do a podcast. Make sure you go to theconfines.com and you can subscribe wherever to the Friendly Confines podcast, wherever podcasts are broadcast, wherever you podcast, find us, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. But on the Wednesday show last week, I posed the question, what are we going to do about Jason Hayward and the Jason Hayward dilemma? Because he really is just an albatross in the lineup offensively. And now here we are in the 11th inning, and we're talking about what are we going to do about the Jake Arrieta dilemma. And I'll just set this up to say I looked over at my buddy Edgar at the game Saturday, and I said, Edgar, if the playoff starts today, Jake's not going to be in the rotation. Jake's going to be, he'll make the team probably and be, an arm off the bench, which is not where he's super effective. But Jake is obviously, we knew this is not the guy we were getting from 15 and 16. But what's your thoughts on this? Because if you're going to pull out some of his stats and recent starts, what are we going to do about Jake? Is this just a rough patch here, or is this the Jake Arrieta that we're going to ride with?
Well, first of all, let me just say this, Chad. I did get a chance to listen to the podcast this week you did with Lante. Excellent job. I thought it was really, really good. I enjoyed listening to you guys, the two, folks of Central Illinois and SIU from Villa Grove. So I know that was exciting for you. But yes, as for Jake Arrieta, so here's some stats for you. In his last 5 starts, Jake Arrieta is 1-4. He's pitched in 8 2/3 innings. He's given up 22 runs, 17 of them earned. That's an 8.40 ERA, Chad. It is rough. Other than that outing that you got to see him in San Diego, where he pitched pretty well, it has not been, and it has not looked good for Jake Arrieta at all. It is disappointing because I didn't think he was going to be dominant by any stretch, but I did think we would see a guy who was going to keep the Cubs in baseball games and was going to go out, be able to rely on for 5-6 innings. He's just scuffling right now. He looks like he's uncomfortable. He looks like he's just not able to get the ball across the plate with any, just sort of authority. Now, the funny part is in all of this is from what I've been reading, his velocity is actually pretty good right now. So it's maybe just a matter of he's not getting his pitches, across the plate the way he wants them to, or, he's just not throwing the ball well. But either way, this is an issue because Jake's the one guy in the rotation right now, especially with, Adzale and Williams both out, that you can kind of rely on to give you a different look in the rotation. But the only look he's giving people is just a fat baseball that guys are serving up and, hitting into play. So it's concerning to me. I don't feel like you can take him out of the rotation, though, because he is somebody that is a veteran and you can, hopefully think that he will bounce back. And this is just a bad stretch for him. But yeah, it is for me certainly a concern. And I just hope he can pitch his way out of it. That's really the only thing you can do at that point. What about you?
Well, a couple things that I saw on Saturday, because I was there for his start. It was bewildering how well players on the Marlins were just squaring him up and going to all fields. He wasn't fooling anybody. He certainly wasn't fooling Duvall, who has just went off on the Cubs. Maybe the curse of Cincinnati there, but he just owned the Cubs in general. But a lot of hard hit balls. Yeah, a lot of hard hit balls off of Jake. And what was interesting, the Cubs just did not just square up a ball really until Jason Hayward's home run. So if your offensive highlight is a Jason Hayward home run, that's pretty interesting. His outing marked, it was the 26th time this season that the Cubs have had a starter last fewer than 5 innings. Now, what does that mean? Probably nothing, because only the Padres and Diamondbacks are worse. And the Padres are probably top 5, top 3 team in baseball, and the Diamondbacks are the worst team in baseball. So it's not a stat that matters in the new realm of baseball because pitcher, it just doesn't matter if you can get to that bullpen and you have some effectiveness. And this Cubs bullpen, let's be very honest, if you get to the 7th inning with a lead, this Cubs bullpen will win, will dominate, will shut you down. All the other opposing teams know this. I did want to mention something that I think did have a bit of an effect on Jake Arrieta. Jose Lobaton. Oh my gosh. I don't know, Ryan, if you got to see the game Saturday. I've seen so many games in person and on the radio and on TV. I have never seen a catcher have such an impact on a game, and it definitely did rattle Jake Arrieta. We're talking the Marlins stole on him at will. He was 2 hopping throws into second base, pass balls galore, wasn't knocking it down. He had a routine pop fly right over the plate that he missed, that dropped in for a single. The guy came around from second to score. That not only rattled Jake, but that took a lot of gas out of this Cubs offense and really their hope. But it was one of those things, you knew Willie was going to get the day off because it was after a night game that Willie caught. But Jose Lobaton, I mean, I was shocked to not see him back on the bus to Iowa after that outing. It was that bad. And Jake, you're right. We're not going anywhere. Alzale's coming back. His blister's about healed. So I'm not panicking, but you really want to see Jake get into some better groove right now. And we just aren't seeing it yet. All
right. So let's move on now here to the 12th inning, Chad. And, let's be honest. I mean, this past weekend, it did not serve up the type of, series that we expected from the Cubs. They obviously did not look good against the Marlins. They have not really looked good in general, as we mentioned at the top of the show, over the past 8 games. So as it stands right now, even though this team is tied for first place, do they have enough to sustain for the rest of the season? And is this a team that ultimately will be contending for the NL Central when it's all said and done, when we're looking at a race in September? What do you think?
I think they ran into some really good pitching and a really good division leading Mets this week where they lost 3 of 4. The Marlins was just, it's not like the Marlins didn't throw an ace at the Cubs on Saturday. They did. They threw a guy with a sub-3 ERA that was hitting all of his pitches. Where I'm not concerned is you talked about Chris being injured, and yeah, he hasn't been the same since he got hit on the hand. I am concerned about where Jason Hayward fits into this role. I mean, if you could just have him be injured a little bit longer, have Chris out in right field and have Patrick Wisdom at third, that changes things quite a bit. You don't have Nico in there anymore. Javi's been on and off, but he's heating up a lot. So I'm not concerned so much about the offense if David Ross can make some challenging decisions. If he wants to ride it out with the likes of Jason Hayward in right field, that is going to be a black hole in the lineup pretty much throughout the year. He does not show any signs that he's going to do anything. Where I have a tremendous amount of hope is what I alluded to earlier. This team has one of the best seventh. And I can't remember a time where I've said this about the Cubs, but this team has the best 7, 8, 9 in baseball with Tepera, with Chafin, and Kimbrel. They are, I believe, right about 49.1 innings combined on a scoreless streak. 49 innings, the three of them combined, which is incredible. And so I'm not concerned about the bullpen, and there were 3 or 4 seasons preceding this one where you were holding your breath about all the different pieces of the bullpen. So I feel really good about that. That tells me that's a playoff team. So what I've always said, in my opinion, is if you want to compete in the postseason, you got to come in healthy, come on a bit of a roll, and have a couple starters that can do it, and have a bullpen that can be dominant. And this Cubs pitching staff, they have figured out how to put a bullpen together that is lights out. And there's nobody in baseball that wants to tackle the Cubs bullpen because nobody's having success.
This bullpen is certainly the reason why this team is in contention right now. We can agree on that. That is the whole reason why this team is contending right now. It is the best in baseball. And as you said, Tepera, Chafin, and Kimbrel shorten the game. I mean, if the Cubs are leading in the 6th inning, you can basically guarantee that they're going to win the game because Tepera and Chafin and Kimbrel are lights out. I mean, they're nearly unstoppable this year. Kimbrel's arguably the best closer in baseball right now. So, and Tepera and Chafin are 2 of the best middle relief guys or setup guys in the game right now. In fact, I would even go as far to say, Chad, that if the Cubs, were to trade Craig Kimbrel or next year don't sign him, let's say, I don't see any reason why Ryan Tepera can't fit the role of a closer for this team next season if it came to that. So but here are the things as I say, but can the bullpen sustain throughout this entire year? We're only in June. You don't want to see them gassed. However, hopefully they can continue to pitch as well as they are. And at the same time, is the offense going to be able to click it all? Are they going to be able to kind of, come together again? I was not encouraged by what I saw by the Marlins for whatever reason, because we have seen it going back as far as 2003. The Marlins seem to play very well at Wrigley, and it doesn't matter who owns the team, who's the roster. I mean, there's nobody involved from 2003 anymore, yet the Marlins still seem to figure out the code of how to beat the Cubs at Wrigley and play them very well, regardless of who is in the lineup. I wasn't encouraged by that, but I'm not going to just take that small sample size of that series and say, okay, I'm concerned at this point. Let's see what happens against Cleveland. Let's see how it plays out against the rest of the month. We can make a better decision. I will say this. We will know. I have no doubt at this point, there is not going to be a situation, in my opinion, Chad, of when the trade deadline comes that we are going to sit here and go, should they trade anybody or should they be buyers or sellers? We are going to know definitively by the trade deadline what this team should do. There is not going to be an either or, because that can be the case. I truly believe we will know for certain if they need to be sellers or buyers by the trade deadline.
And to put it in perspective, I mean, going back to the last week of April, all the way through the first couple of days of June, one of the best teams in all of baseball. And we said, because of this stretch in June, if you go 500, you alluded to it, they're going to be just fine. They're still going to be 7, 8, 9 games over 500 is where you want to be going into close to the All-Star break, unless you're on 103 pace. I will share this about the Marlins. I was with my crew and I was like, this is one of those rare games. It wasn't a sellout. It was like 36,000 people, but still a good crowd post COVID. And I was like, this is one of those rare games is you're not going to find a group. There's no Marlins fans that made the trek up to Chicago. It's just there are no Marlins fans that travel or pay money to go serve their team. I saw one Marlins jersey. It wasn't Marlin Man's, but it was one guy walking around with some orange jersey. And I will share this. In the 2016 season, I have a poster that shows every single game with a W, an L, or a T, because there was one T. And you see at the end of last year, of that year, 2016, in September, a bewildering, horrible series against the Pittsburgh Pirates where they lost 3 of 4 and everybody was freaking out 3 weeks into September. It'll be okay. This is just the Marlins who, yes, Ryan, absolutely have our number. Hey, let's take a break. How about that? Let's take a break. Let's pay some bills. Let's check out what else is going on in the Barroom Network. We're going to come back with 3 more innings. We're also going to talk about what's coming up on our weekly show that we're going to record. Ryan is back from his travels, and we're going to do a show on Wednesday with more of the highlights. But let's take a quick break and see what's going on right now on Barroom Network.
Hey everybody, it's Aldo Gandhi, and I just want to let you know really quickly that our swag shop is reopened. DeepDishTees.com is where you go, and that's tees with T-E-E-S. Clever name, guys. They're the new home of our merchandise. You can get t-shirts, you can get caps, you can get coffee mugs, you can get hoodies, you can get all sorts of good stuff, and you'll help out the bar room with the purchase. So head over to DeepDishTees.com.
Guys, it's Peggy Kaczynski. I retired early from my 20-something career as a sportscaster covering the Bulls, the Bears, the Blackhawks, the Cubs, the White Sox, and really every other college and high school team in Chicago. So what do you do after that? Well, you start a podcast. That's what I did with my teenage son, Jason. And the result is The Sportscaster and Her Son. Yes, I'm the baby boomer, a mom. We don't get along. We don't have a lot in common, but we both share a love for sports. And we always have great sports conversation. Even better, our guests in the interviews. So come check us out. We're on Podbean and the Barroom Network, or really wherever you get your audio. The Sportscaster and Her Son podcast. See you there.
Yeah, you gotta go and get some swag. I'm rocking the Friendly Confines hat, which I rocked at Wrigley. Oddly enough, nobody asked me about it, but we're getting out there. We've got it, and you've got the shirt going. And I love. I'm wearing my favorite World Series shirt, which I didn't actually. When I put this on today, I didn't actually realize and think about the fact that we're playing the Indians tonight. So that just was a happy idiot coincidence.
Just an unconscious decision. I want to just say this really quick. You know, I was in town in Chicago for Father's Day. I got to spend some time with my family. My mom had some people over, our family, to celebrate. And my mom, as party gifts, gave out party favors, or if you will, gave Friendly Confines t-shirts to all the fathers that were invited. So for our next show, Chad, I'm going to, I should have done it tonight. Totally bad job by me. I have a photo of my entire family rocking the Friendly Confines t-shirt.
That's awesome.
So I can share that next week when we share that. So yes, deepdishtees.com/barroom. Be sure to check out our Friendly Confines swag. There's also all the other podcasts that you can check out for the Barroom Network that we have swag for as well. So be sure to, get a hold of your favorite podcast. Hopefully it's ours, but it's great quality material, and be sure to check it out there if you get the chance.
Yeah, we'll have to talk to Aldo at the end of the show when we bring him in, like what our cut is yet. Because I was hoping like Cabo money. Like I was hoping that this swag shop would just open us up to like just unlimited travel for like a month.
Right.
Just let it roll.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So let's move on to the 13th inning. And I take no pleasure in this being a topic. Zero pleasure. It is one of those things that we all kind of thought we knew what was going on, but it never really was quite out there. And news broke today that Ben Zobrist is, in fact, and has been in the process of divorcing his wife Juliana since 2019. There is a lot of sordid details. If you remember in the news, she had filed for divorce in 20, but then that got pulled away in Cook County. But now it's been discovered that Ben actually filed in 19, and that process is still going on. Ryan, I'm going to let you give the details again, and I'll respond to it. But this is one of those things where you just go, because this just is ugly, especially with how at least how the wife had Juliana really had carried herself on Instagram and the whole process. So if true, such a gross story.
No, and that's a perfect word to use, Chad. It's a gross story, and you said it best. I take no pleasure in learning about sordid details about somebody's divorce, especially when it's really has nothing to do about their career or anything that happened off, or rather on the field. But basically, the story is, according to court documents, is Juliana Zobrist was having an affair with a pastor who was a close friend of Ben Zobrist, who he actually also employed through his charity and organization. And, basically was in, kind of like advising Ben throughout this entire process. While he was having an affair with his wife, Ben was confiding in him, not realizing he was actually having an affair with his wife. And finally, the details came out. Ben, obviously realized it. I believe Juliana came out and admitted it. And it's just unfortunate. It's sad. And, I feel bad mostly for his children, because they're the ones that are going to be having to see this, play out in the public eye. But, it's unfortunate. And like you said, you now know why he took the leave that he did. It was understandable. And the fact that he had to do that and lose the money that he did over the course of the year for a guy who's, the World Series MVP for this team from 2016, you hate to think that this is what people are going to think about now when they think of Ben Zobrist, and not the great career that he had, not just with the Cubs, but with the Rays and with the Royals. I mean, he's a 2-time World Series champion. And, this is now what people are kind of reverting to when they see that. So I hate to see this. You hate to hear about it. But, this is kind of what borderlines celebrity and today's world, when we talk about people's on and off the field trials and tribulations, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, 2-time World Series champ, 2-time World Series MVP, on 2 different teams. That's a rare thing to do, but he was such a tremendous contributor. But it fills in the blanks for a lot of us, because, he skipped time in spring training in 19, had such a really rough start. We knew there was issues going on. He decided to pull away from the team. That was kind of how he retired from baseball because of COVID, but he had to go away because all of these things were coming out. And that's when he filed for divorce. So it's a rough situation. We've seen some mixed messages on social media from both of them since this time, and everything that you shared, that is obviously what we have learned, what we've read in the divorce documents, in the proceedings. So we're no conjecture on what we've heard. So it was apparently a year-long physical relationship, and apparently this pastor also did premarital counseling. Not only that, plus marital counseling. So it's a gross situation. Matters like this, which is not a unique thing in society, it stinks. But matters like this happen, and every now and then it gets called out. But now we really know kind of the story about what happened to Ben and why it was such a struggle for him in 2019, and why he had such an unceremonious exit from baseball. Not everybody knows this story, but Ben was going to go to be a pastor himself. He was going to go be a minister. He was going to go to college and go into the ministry. And he did because of his high school baseball coach, he went and did one of those last look, just scouts are going to come out and just check you out. And a coach from Nazarene, from the suburbs of Chicago, took a look at him and actually said, yeah, why don't you come on board? And the rest is history. I mean, think about if he had not done that, he'd be a pastor somewhere else. But instead, he's a Chicago Cubs legend, the most famous double we will ever see. Before we throw it to the 14th inning, you may have seen it flash across your screen. We assume you're also watching. Maybe you're doing both, or maybe you're listening to us after the game. But Indians are up by 1 in the bottom of the second, 1-0 versus the Cubs. Rhino, take it away.
All right, so let us move on to the 14th inning. And, of course, on our current episode of the Confines that you did so great with Lante from ESPN in Champaign-Urbana, I got the opportunity for our 7th inning stretch to talk to Danny Wexelman from MLB Network Radio. You can listen to her on Sundays, and she fills in during the week. And I asked her about the potential of who is out there for the Cubs if they needed to make a big trade at the trade deadline, if they are in fact buyers. And obviously the one name that everybody is talking about is Max Scherzer. But beyond him, who else is there, Chad? And this is what Danny Wexelman had to say in our interview.
Max Scherzer has definitely been the guy that everyone has been talking about. And ultimately, if he isn't going to be healthy, he's not going to play for the Nats this postseason. He's definitely not going to play for another team. But I'm trying to think off the top of my head. No, I don't think that there's a starting pitcher I can think of. I hate to say that, but I haven't quite gotten there yet with everything that we've been going on with the sticky baseball stuff and college baseball and softball going on. I haven't quite thought that far ahead.
So, Chad, I guess the question is, if the Cubs can't get Max Scherzer, which I don't think they will, really, is there anyone out there worth trading for at the deadline if the Cubs are in fact buyers to help this pitching staff?
I think it's too early to tell. I mean, but you're going to have a point here where, is there somebody of value in Arizona? Is there somebody of value in Miami? Is there somebody of value, in Kansas City? There are teams that are not going to be in the mix. I mean, Atlanta right now is 4 games under 500. Would they make some moves because this is a down year? Does Baltimore have to? So it's just conjecture at this point. But when you look at where we are right now, the key is to win this division. The key is to win this division. Then you're facing the Mets likely in the postseason, and the Cubs are still very well positioned. But I got to tell you, this Central Division has really impressed me. So I know you asked about the pitching staff, but you just look at the state of where we are in the National League Central with Milwaukee and the Cubs in first place right now as we record this live, and St. Louis and the Cardinals. The Cardinals and the Reds are 4 games out, but still at 500. Depending on what team gets hot at the right time, it's going to be a horse race, and every extra effort could really help out. But I think the Cubs' key right now, if the bullpen stays intact and keeps doing what they're doing, can the starting rotation for the Cubs get healthy? Can Hendricks really settle in and do what he needs to do? We saw a really a positive start on Sunday by Alex Mills. Is he a part of the solution? Alzolay has one of the best spin rates in baseball. He's showing it off tonight. Top 5 in baseball, which we're going to talk about the sticky stuff probably a little bit later. But I think, it's about getting this Cubs team healthy, and they are furthest they could be from healthy at this point.
Yeah, and that's all fair. I just don't want to see a trade like we saw when they went out and got Jose Quintana and they gave up, the prospects that they did. Because I think there's, something to be said about if you're going to go out and get somebody that's going to be a game changer and not somebody you're going to look back on and say, well, that trade didn't work out so well. So I would almost rather see the Cubs stand pat if there's not really a pitcher out there that's ultimately a guy that can put them over the top. And other than Max Scherzer, which again, the Cubs I don't feel like are going to get because A, I don't know if the Nationals are willing to give up on him, and B, the Cubs don't even have the players that the Nationals would want to get Max Scherzer, short of them asking for Chris Bryant or Javi Baez, let's say. So for me, I would just rather see this team kind of play it off as what they have and go all in with the players they currently have. You mentioned the bullpen. As long as they stay strong, this team can stay afloat in the NL Central. And nobody in this division, as you said, is looking to run away with it. The Brewers aren't going to get anybody that's going to be that major of an impact player. Same with the Cardinals, same with the Reds. So I say just stand pat, let the season play out as is, because I think you have the at least the pieces in place to attempt to contend for the NL Central when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and I guess I would disagree on the 16 trade. I mean, that 16 trade did get the World Series title to Chicago. I don't think that this team wins it without a Aroldis Chapman. I don't think so. And you're right. They gave up a starting. He's played second base. He's played shortstop for the Yankees. So yeah, would we like that depth for the Cubs? Absolutely. I'm still, the Quintana trade is probably the one that hurts the most because you've got Cease and you've got Eloy Jimenez. I mean, those could be impact arms, which the team would need, and the White Sox definitely enjoy. And an impact bat that would have kept us from really needing to go out and get Jason Hayward. But again, Jay Hay was a part of 2009. It's hard to play the what if game in the past.
I'm not.
But I don't. The point I was trying to say is I don't think Scherzer is going to be in the mix here. I think as Danny shared, I mean the injury situation is too much in doubt right now for him to even be talked about because who knows if he's going to be able to make it through this season.
Yeah, no, the Chapman trade is a no-brainer. I was more referring to Quintana, who, again, really made no impact whatsoever on this team. And I felt like the Cubs gave up a lot, and he didn't do much to improve that rotation when it was all said and done. So,
all right, well, let's wrap up the shows we like to do in the 15th inning. And we always do a nice, tidy show. We always tell Aldo we're going to do a 3-hour show one of these days. And the best part about it is I don't think he has a choice. Like, he has to just ride with it. I think he just has to go. So one of these days, Ryan, I think we get some Red Bull, we get a Monster Energy drink, we get some chips and sauce. We go. Let's do extra innings. Let's see the longest game in baseball, and let's just go that many innings, and then we'll just flip to the studio, and I'll be passed out on the couch. But let's wrap up in the 15th, and this is a segment where we do preview our podcast that we record on Wednesday that you can listen to throughout the week. The current one, as Ryan said, I got to co-host with Lonte, and Lon and I are both Grovers, which means we're from Villa Grove, Illinois, which is in East Central Illinois. We both went to Southern, just like Ryan and I. All three of us are Salukis. That was fun doing the show with him. It was great to have his insight, and it was fun, as I joked about. It's like, in honor of diversity, I wanted to, have a diverse show. So we brought on a Cardinal fan. So it's good to have all sides listens to. But as you look to this show that we are back together, the reunion, the boys are back. What are you most excited about to talk about this week as we preview the Confines?
So, Chad, our guest this week, hoping, fingers crossed, we've been texting back and forth, Lou Canellis, the sports director at WFLD Fox 32. He and I have been chatting for a while, as you know. I think we got him pinned down. I think he's going to come on the show with us. He's going to talk some Cubs baseball. Lou's been in the market for so many years in Chicago. I'm interested to kind of hear his thoughts on what he thinks of this Cubs baseball team. Lou's usually talking about the Bears. He's a big Bears guy. Aldo knows that, but I'm looking forward to connecting with Lou, hearing what his thoughts are on this Cubs team, and if they ultimately are a team that he thinks is in the right place and can make a run here in the NL Central. What about you?
Well, I want to say two things. The one I'm looking forward to talking about is today, on Monday, Major League Baseball started their enforcement with the 10-game ban, with sticky substances. And I'm going to be so interested to see spin rate, velocity, see if the numbers change, if people have made the change or they've already prepared for this. And then also if injuries spike up, and then also to see if anybody does get walked out to the mound and gets removed and gets put on a 10-day, because that's a pretty rough enforcement. So look forward to talking about that. But a fun story, you were talking, I'm trying to hide a phone number, but you were talking about, I don't know if you could see this. Can you see that? You can't see it. Gosh darn it. You were talking about hoping for an interview right after the game on Saturday. I had texted Chris Myers, who broadcast all of the Marlins games in place of Boog this weekend. It was his first time doing the Cubs game. I was texting him this weekend saying, man, the Cubs sure didn't give you a lot to work with. Talk about being, 21 to 3 in his first 2 games. And he was like, yeah, it was a rough start. He called me right after the show and he said, I owe you, we're doing a podcast. I owe you an email. So I apologize. So he's up in the next couple of weeks, but I got back to listen to some of his highlights. I know social media wasn't always that kind about Chris, and it's never fun when you've got a different voice and the Cubs aren't playing well and all the highlights are coming from the other team. But I'm looking forward to having Chris on the show and talking to him again. The guy just did the West Westminster dog show in New York. He's doing Cubs games. He another fun thing. He shared this with me. He said he was doing an interview on Wednesday with Billy Williams for inserts during the marquee broadcast, and he said he had to bring it up because it was during Billy's time, and they talked about the black cat. And Chris goes, I don't know. It was just freaky. The second we brought up the black cat, their Zoom connection like went all haywire for like 30 seconds. So he's like, I'm not reading into that, but he said that was pretty freaky.
I thought Chris did a good job because I watched the games. I was able to see them. And I thought Chris really actually did a very nice job. I was happy to see him on the games. Obviously, like you said, it's never easy when you're filling in for the main guy as he did for Boog. But Chris is a pro. As you said, he does NASCAR. He does the NFL. He does the Westminster dog show. He's a jack of all trades. He's been around forever. So that's great. I'm looking forward to having Chris back on as well. So that'll be exciting to have him too. Want to just quickly make sure people know they can find us on social media. Chad is at the Chad Gordon. I am at Ryan D. Lieber. Check us out there. Plus, you can check out our website, theconfines.com. You can sign up for our newsletter and you get the podcast delivered right to your email box each and every week. If you'd like to subscribe, we are, of course, always interested in having you listen to our show, which you can listen to this week of our newest episode. We are on all of the platforms and our Facebook page, the Chicago Cubs Friendly Confines Facebook page. So be sure to check us out there as well. Want to thank Aldo Gandia, who's always
bring him on,
helping us.
Bring him on. You got to bring him on, Ryan. All right, Aldo, how do we do? Any issues? Anything you want to correct, Aldo? Oh, you're on mute, Aldo. You're on mute. Our first year on mute. It's our first year on mute. Oh, gosh. What a pro.
Oh, my gosh. Ruined a perfectly good show I did. You mentioned Cabo money, and the first thing that popped into my mind was this.
Yeah.
If we could at least make enough money to pay for a couple of bottles of this for you guys, then it will all be worth it, right?
Without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Great show, fellas. Hopefully the Cubs can pull this one out. And as Chubb said in the chat room, start a nice 6-game winning streak.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Aldo. As always, thanks, Aldo. And Rhino, one of these days, I just want to hang with you when you're in Chicago, when you're hitting the clubs, you're hanging out with the big wigs. I just put in a good word for me, okay?
Yeah,
I noticed in one of the pictures, one of the guys was like, "So are all of you wearing ripped jeans?" Like, because all the guys in the front of the picture like had the ripped jeans down to like the shins.
It's a look, right? It's a look. We were, you just got to go with what's in at that point. Chad, listen, if I knew you were in Chicago, I would have hung out with you. I would have.
I know.
Another time, we'll make that happen. You know that. So that is going to do it for this edition of the Friendly Confines Extra Innings show. We appreciate it. Of course, don't forget, you can find Aldo at Barroom Network. Be sure to check him out there. And as always, all the Barroom Network podcasts. For Chad, I'm Ryan. We appreciate it, everybody. Listen to our newest episode dropping this week of the Friendly Confines. We'll talk to you next time. Have a good one, everybody. Go Cubs.
See you guys at Dodger Stadium. Ping me on Twitter if you're going to be out there. I'd love to toast a beer with you.